Hi everyone, my name is Marie-Claude Léveillé and I am a Senior Technology Partner Manager at Shopify in France, and I'm going to be covering the key principles and best practices in store design and marketing to grow your traffic and get more sales. So I'll be touching base on how to reach beyond the storefront, how to grow your traffic organically before investing into paid ads. I'm also going to be talking about your store design, how less is more, how practicality and functionality is what's going to keep your customers around. And last but not least, I'm going to be talking about marketing, how to get to know your customers and how to understand the data about your customers to boost your sales. So join me at E-commerce to Strive is to Thrive on May 18th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Can't wait to see you there. Bye. Hi everyone, my name is Marie-Claude Léveillé. I'm a Senior Technology Partner Manager for Shopify in France. I've been working for Shopify for about 7 years, and today I want to share a bit of my findings with you. So we're going to be talking about the key principles and the best practices in store design and marketing. So how to grow your traffic and your sales. So let's get going. Here's what we're going to be covering today. So first and foremost, how to reach beyond the storefront, how to grow your traffic organically before you're investing into paid marketing. So how to really set yourself up for success first. The second point is your store design, how less is more and how customers are looking for functionality and practicality. And last but not least, in terms of marketing, how to get to know your customers, what tools are at your disposal to really make the best out of your marketing. All right, so let's get right into it. So one thing I want to emphasize before we get going is that you don't need to make drastic changes to make a big difference, right? And sometimes all it takes is that we need to get into the shoes of a customer to really understand what's going to make an impact and what's going to grow your traffic, your sales, and your conversion. So the first point I want to make here is to ask yourself some kind of basic questions before getting into this, right? So if you're shopping on an online store and you end up leaving, what's the reason behind that? Is there a recurring pattern in online stores that you visit that inevitably let you to leave the store before you actually purchase? So what are those reasons and how can we be insightful in that and maybe apply that to our own online store? The second point is the opposite of that, right? What keeps you interested? When you last visited an online store that you found really interesting, what was it about that online store that made you interested? And to that point, is there anything on the other side that makes you really frustrated about an online shopping experience? Can you remember the last time that you went on a store and you were really lost or you were really frustrated? So how do we pinpoint those things and avoid them? And last but not least, what is it about your favorite online store that makes it stand out? So think about the last time that you made a purchase on your favorite store. What was so special about it, and how can we apply that same concept to our store? So let's just keep these questions in the back of our mind as we're going to go through these next couple of slides here. So the first point is how to grow your traffic organically, how to get better return on investment in terms of ad campaigns, and how do we set ourselves up for success first and foremost. So one thing that I want to point out is that everyone's online right now. So we're all working from home or just, at home because there's still a pandemic, even though it's slowly coming to an end. So let's take advantage of that, right? Let's recognize that first and foremost, and let's take advantage of it. And one way to do that is creating quality content, right? Because everyone's on their phone, on their laptops right now, and people are really yearning for some more content. So whatever the subject you're an expert in, if you're selling fashion, write about fashion. If you're selling beauty, there's a ton of people looking for content on beauty. So write about that. And don't be afraid of adding media. Don't be afraid if you have the opportunity to add quality pictures, some videos, podcasts, whatever it may be, because that is what will make you stand out from everybody else. And ultimately, the better your content, the better returns you're going to get on your ad campaigns, right? If you, for example, take two different businesses, and they're both selling the same thing. One has a really healthy Instagram with beautiful content, and they have a nice blog where people can comment and stuff like that. And the other one has barely anything on their social media or on their website. And both of them are going to be spending, let's say, $1,000 on an ad campaign. Which is going to get the better returns? Obviously, it's going to be the one with the more quality content, right? Because you're really providing your customers an experience before you're even targeting them, which is something that people really appreciate, because we're all getting a bit complacent in terms of getting ads targeted to us all the time. So if we click on an ad and we go to the Instagram account or the website and the content isn't really great, then we're not going to be very encouraged to purchase. So one doesn't work without the other, right? You can spend $1 million on an ad campaign if you want, but if your content isn't particularly great, you're not going to get very great returns. So let's take advantage of the fact that everyone's online right now. Let's provide them with valuable content, and ultimately we're going to see better returns after the fact. So my second point is about store design, how less is more. I think a perfect example of this is Apple products, right? Like Apple products have taken over the world, but I think the key to their success is that they're very minimalist, right? They're very functional. And in that functionality, there's beauty, right? They're beautiful looking products, but ultimately it's their functionality that make them so popular. So I think people are really looking for that same experience when they're browsing online or they're shopping online. So the less friction they have to go through, the better, right? The more they can understand the workings of your store instinctively, the better it is. And ultimately the more chances that this customer is going to convert. So sometimes you have to kind of find a balance between functionality and aesthetics. Of course, your store has to be beautiful, but again, sometimes there's beauty in things just being very simple and very functional. And ultimately, the less time that your customer has to spend to get from point A to point B, the more chances they're going to have to convert. So point A being when they first land on your website, to point B being when they finish their purchase. So what can we do to really minimize that friction, right? Like, let's look at the architecture of the store. Is that really necessary? Is the navigational menu easy to understand? Because sometimes when it's our website and it's our business, we kind of look at it, and for us it's obvious because we've built it, right? Like, we're the brain behind it, so of course it's going to make sense to us. But asking friends and family, or even better, random strangers to look at your store and tell you what makes sense and what doesn't is something that can be extremely, extremely valuable. And the last point that I want to make is something that's really important, and that's getting to know your customers. So again, I talked about how everyone's online right now, and that makes it so that customers are like on Instagram communities, Facebook, TikTok, they're on podcasts. People are really bringing their social life that they used to have in the real world to these online communities. So integrate yourself into those communities and get to know what your customers are looking for, what they like, what they don't like. Is there a trend that you'd be able to apply to your business? So really try to get to know that. And the second point here is find ways to bring a human approach to your marketing and to your customer service. So back in 2019, before the world went a little bit crazy, you were able to walk into a store and talk to a sales representative or have somewhat of a social experience as you were shopping, but now that doesn't exist anymore. So I think customers are really yearning for that experience in some way or another. So how can you replicate that through your store or your blog or your social media, for example, right? Bring that human touch and really differentiate yourself from the competition that's going to maybe just take a traditional approach to the way that they manage their customers. One thing, and probably the most important thing of all here, is use your customer data to your advantage. Like, this is free information that you have. And every online merchant knows that they spend a lot of resources and money into getting that customer to purchase at their store for the very first time. So it's imperative that you maximize those efforts and you get your customers to come back. And how do we do that? When customers are visiting your store or they're making a purchase, you get a lot of information about them. There's different tools that will tell you where they went on your store, how much time they spent, what collections they view, what products they're more interested in. And after they make a purchase, you know exactly what they like, right? You know exactly what they've purchased, where they're from, etc. And whatever your e-commerce platform is, you'll have segmentation tools where you're able to quickly put your customers into different groups based on their behavior on your store or their purchase history. And so later on, when you're doing, email marketing campaigns, as opposed to sending an email that's just general, that people will know is just like spam or an email marketing email, send something that's exactly based on what they purchased before or their behavior, and they're going to be so much more inclined to actually open it and come back to purchase a second, third, fourth, fifth time, etc. So that is really, really key. And lastly, to that same point, curate your content based on that knowledge, right? You're finding out so much about your customers this way that you know what they like, you know what they want to see. And, maybe if your content wasn't about this, you can pivot and you can make changes, right? I think if there's anything that these past couple of years have shown us is that we need to change very quickly. We need to be really adaptable. We need to be really flexible. And so it's about a constant learning experience where you're learning so much about your customers, about your own business, what works, what doesn't, and it's okay to make changes based on that. So just to kind of sum up everything that I've just mentioned, integrate yourself into online communities, right? Make sure you're maximizing your efforts before you invest too much into paid ads. Set yourself up for success. Make sure your store is understandable by your customers. You don't want to frustrate them or anything to the point where they won't actually convert. Make it as easy for them to spend their money at your store as they possibly can. And the last is really getting to know them, right? Like, if you don't try to get your customers, you're not going to get anywhere. And the more you spend energy listening and really getting to know them, the better off you're going to be. And so that's it for me. I hope these were some valuable points for you, and thanks for watching.
Hi everyone, my name is Shishir Nigam and I'm the founder of the Dropshipping Council, and I also operate my own 7-figure online e-commerce stores. I'll be speaking to you on day 1 of e-commerce 2021 about fulfillment and how you can automate your supply chain regardless of what level of business you're at, depending on your scale and how much volume you're doing. And on day 2, I'm going to be talking to all of you about the upcoming e-commerce trends and opportunities that you need to capitalize on so that you make the full use of 2021 and really grow your business properly. So make sure to tune into e-commerce 2021 on May 19th and 20th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. See you guys there. Hi everyone, welcome again to e-commerce 2021, and in this session we'll be talking about how you can develop an automated supply chain and fulfillment system for your e-commerce business. So I'm excited to get into this, and I'm thanking again PageFly for inviting me to cover this topic here. This is what we have planned out for you. I've split this up into 3 different parts, depending really on where your business is and how far it has scaled, and what your fulfillment options are at each stage of your business, whether you're a beginner, whether you have crossed about $10,000 per month in sales, or whether you're a big fish and you have crossed $100,000 per month in sales, what you can achieve at each of those stages to automate your supply chain. And we'll wrap up by talking about the secret sauce, which I feel is really the differentiating factor for any particular business when it comes to keeping your customers happy and making sure your supply chain is clean, automated, and without headaches. So let's get right into it. So first of all, before we dive into the content, who am I? Why should you be listening to me? A bit about myself. My name is Shishir Nigam, and first and foremost, I am an online e-commerce store owner myself. Me and my wife, Namrata Nigam, we got started in the e-commerce business a few years ago, and it's been an exciting journey. We've been able to operate multiple different websites and brands. Some of them have exceeded 7 figures in sales now. We've been featured by Oberlo, Our Journey, In the process, we have also founded the Dropshipping Council, which is a private mastermind community of online store owners who have exceeded at least $100,000 per month in sales, and they get access to a private community where we can network with each other, access exclusive masterclasses, and get the benefit of 35 plus different partner agencies. So if you have you're operating a business at a scale where you've crossed $100,000 per month in sales, definitely check out the Dropshipping Council because you may qualify to join. Finally, I'm also a mentor, and we have our own YouTube channel called Journey to Freedom, where we're teaching many beginner store owners on how to get started. That is how we learned many of our stories and many of our lessons in the beginning. A few highlights here again. In the beginning, we learned a lot from others and the failures and successes of others on YouTube and Facebook. So that's how we are trying to pay back a little bit now through our own channel and, teach others on some of the mistakes that we made and how they can avoid that. So enough about me. Let's dive into the content right here. As I mentioned, I've segmented this in 3 different ways depending on the scale of your business so that each one of you can take out something from this presentation. So first off, let's start off with fulfillment options if you're a beginner. If you're just starting off your own online store, you're probably drop shipping from AliExpress or from some other source. What can you do to get your fulfillment in place? Now, in the beginning, normally what happens is most people start off with obviously just shipping from AliExpress if that's where you're ordering from, choosing the AliExpress standard delivery option, and that's typically going to take you 2 to 4 weeks to deliver to your customer, right? That's usually, if you're lucky, it will arrive in 2 weeks and your customer is happy. But this is also a good time to experiment with domestic fulfillment. So there are many suppliers on AliExpress who have US warehousing, right? So they're able to ship domestically through UPS or USPS and get to your customer in 5 to 7 days. So oftentimes on AliExpress, you'll see this kind of a delivery option to deliver from the United States. So that can be one way to improve your fulfillment speeds, especially when you're in the beginning and you don't have too much scale. Now, you can also be exploring many alternative suppliers outside of AliExpress at this stage. And I've taken a snapshot of some of the more prominent ones here. So there's CJ Dropshipping, Udroppy, DSers, who are all having their own, inventory selection, first of all. And many of them do have options for you to fulfill from different locations around the world because they have that scale. So many of them have, warehousing in the US and Europe and different places. So that can also be another way to speed up your fulfillment times without really, making too much of an investment into the process. You can also explore US-based and European-based suppliers like Spocket and Zendrop. Again, these are also avenues that you can explore to find suppliers who are shipping locally. Typically, the quality is even better than many of the suppliers you find on AliExpress. You may pay a premium in cost, but the quality is better, the shipping times are better. So these are all alternatives you can explore as a beginner when it comes to fulfillment options for your business. Now, moving on, let's say you're now at the stage where you have gained some traction, you have a few products that are doing well, they're your best sellers, and you're starting to hit about $10,000 per month in sales. Now that's when things get interesting, because that's when you're at a stage likely where it's getting difficult to manage all those orders that are coming in. And likely, it's a time drag, it's a time investment for your business. So what can you do at that stage to make things a bit more automated, right? And make things a bit more streamlined so that you don't have to be the one individually fulfilling orders on Oberlo or CJ Dropshipping or wherever, right? So let's talk about that. First thing that I have to tell you is at that stage, once you have crossed about $10,000 per month in sales, please don't be relying on fulfillment from AliExpress anymore because they're not reliable, right? In small volumes, 1 or 2 orders per day, it's okay. But once you get to this scale, you'll very quickly run into problems resulting from the delayed times, shipping times. Do not use e-packet servicing. We're still in the middle of a global pandemic. E-packet is not reliable, so don't use that. And the other problem is that very often the items can go out of stock anytime, and you don't know. You don't know when that's about to happen unless you have built up a very strong relationship with your supplier, right? And that's very tough to do on AliExpress just because of, communication barriers and things like that. So what should you be doing at that stage is looking for something that's called a sourcing agent, right? And these are basically third-party logistics companies that are based typically near the manufacturer. So if you're sourcing out of China, many of these sourcing agents are located in China, and they have direct relationships with many of the factories that are supplying these products to your customers, right? So how do you locate them? There's a ton of Facebook groups on e-commerce and dropshipping out there. Go in there and just look and search for terms like sourcing agent or fulfillment agent, and you'll come up with lots of little comments that people have made advertising their own services in terms of fulfillment options for you. So explore them, and the main advantage that I find once you start using a sourcing agent is, number one, you can probably start sourcing your products for a cheaper price, right? So that means bigger, fatter margins for your business, because oftentimes these agents will go directly to the factory, right? You have to understand that when you buy from AliExpress itself is a middleman, right? You're not buying from the source. So that's what these agents may do for you. They'll go and talk to different factories producing the same product and try to get the best price for you. Now, the other major benefit is faster shipping speed, because again, you're overcoming the AliExpress hurdle. You're going directly to the factory, and these third-party logistics companies in the middle, these servicing agents, they really have it down to a science in terms of getting stuff to their warehouse, packaging it, and sending it out to your customer in your local market. So typically you'll be able to offer faster shipping times. Sometimes it's about 1 to 2 weeks. And thirdly, you have the potential for auto fulfillment. I'll talk about that in a couple of slides. Now, when you speak to these servicing agents, ask for things like Unexpress shipping, Yanwen shipping. These are private shipping lines that only these agents have access to. Very rarely will you see these as a shipping option on AliExpress. These are private shipping lines that use private planes, not commercial planes to make your deliveries. So use them because they give you more reliable shipping. It can be a bit more expensive sometimes, but reliability is what you're looking for at the scale of your business right now. Now, when you talk to an agent, here are some of the things that they will ask you that you should be prepared for. What are you selling? Number one, right? You got to send them the link of the product that you're selling so that they can get you a quote for the product. What quantities are you selling them in? Now, that's a very common question because many of these agents have minimum order quantities, MOQs, that they want you to have before taking you on as a customer. Because oftentimes it's not profitable for them if you're getting, just 2 or 3 orders per day of the product. It doesn't make sense for them to start taking you on as a client. So they often have minimum order quantity requirements that you have to meet. And thirdly, what countries are you selling to? So that is again a question because your cost of fulfillment will depend on the countries you're shipping to. Is it the US? Is it Australia? Is it the UK? Is it all of Europe? Where are you shipping to? So be prepared to answer these questions. Now, things that you should ask them, right? Just as important, don't be just answering questions. Make sure you ask them these questions that I've highlighted here, right? Ask them things about how large their team is, how established are they, right? Where are they located? Ask them that because oftentimes the proximity to the factories makes a difference in terms of the domestic shipping times within China, right? If they're in the same city where most of the factories are, oftentimes they can get the product within a day. If they're in a further away city, it can take 2 to 3 days for them to get the product before they can send it out to your customer, right? So that's another lag in your delivery time. Ask them, obviously, as I mentioned, the type of shipping options they have, which private shipping lines they can offer to you. Ask them whether they're able to offer a flat rate shipping to different e-packet countries. Now, this is a major advantage for you as a business owner because if you know that your costs are determined are the same regardless of the country you're shipping to, that makes life a lot easier for you in terms of how to price products, right? Because if you have a different cost of shipping to each different country, let's say US, Australia, Canada, and UK, if the costs are different for each of these countries, then it means that your retail price may need to be different for each country because your costs are different, right? So if you're able to negotiate a flat price across the board, then that's a major plus point, because then your costs are set in stone and you know that you can do a fixed markup above that cost price. Lastly, you can also ask them things about how they accept payments, right? How do they accept payments for the goods that they're shipping out? Do they accept transfers by PayPal, or do they expect you to do a wire transfer, right? Those are all things you got to clarify before you start up with them. You have to ask them what kind of packaging they offer. How do they handle that stock that comes into them? Do they hold inventory, right? Do they require you to buy inventory ahead of time and keep it with them? Or can they buy goods as and when you get an order for them on your stores, right? So ask them these key questions, and it'll help you to understand exactly what to expect once you get into a relationship with them. So those are all points to look at when you're at a scale where you're doing about $10,000 per month in sales. And the next steps once you start working with them is you'll get a quote for the product you're selling. You can negotiate with them, right? Always take that opportunity. That is the time when you should be negotiating with them. Ask them how their onboarding process is, what kind of systems they use to get your order information, right? So sometimes they will install an ERP system on your Shopify store or your back end, which means that they receive all the information on new orders coming in automatically. So that's full automation on your back end, right? So orders come in, you don't have to do anything. The supplier gets the order directly in China. The agent gets information, and they know they have to fulfill automatically. Or alternatively, if they don't have an ERP system, they may request you for a CSV file. It's basically an Excel file of your orders in Shopify for that particular day. So that's semi-automated because you still have to send them physically, your orders in an Excel file every day. But then after that, it's hands-off. Typically, they'll come back to you with a list of tracking numbers in that Excel file, which you can then upload to Shopify or any other system you're using on the back end. You typically want to send orders to your agent on a daily basis. That's how you want to minimize any lag between the order coming in and it getting fulfilled by your sourcing agent. They, as I mentioned, will come back to you with tracking numbers and an invoice that you have to pay. Ideally, you make those payments through PayPal, because what that does on our backend, at least for our stores, is that it simplifies the money transfers, because roughly 50% of my customer payments when they buy a product come in through PayPal. So that's sitting in my PayPal account, and I can use that to make payments. Excuse me. You can use that to make payments to your sourcing agent directly from PayPal if that's possible. And typically that means no additional cost for you. Now, if you have to do a wire transfer, that can sometimes mean an incremental cost for you, but typically it's not that much. So make sure you iron that out. And lastly, check with them on how you can test new products, right? You can leverage on your sourcing agent to send them products of new angles and products that you're testing. Send them the link for that, and they will come back to you with a quote and pricing so you can estimate what you can sell that product at. So all of that is really possible once you cross about $10,000 per month in sales, as I mentioned. Now, what do you do if you have really scaled successfully and you're now hitting $100,000 per month in sales? Now, at that point, even the sourcing agent option can get quite unwieldy. It can have quite a lot of hiccups even at that point when you reach that kind of scale, right? So what do you do at that point to improve things even further? Now, here's what we have done internally in our business. That's the stage at which you should start exploring how you can hold physical inventory in the markets where you're selling these products, right? So there's a few major advantages to that. First of all, you can likely acquire products at a much cheaper price because you can buy in bulk. from places like Alibaba, right? So instead of going through the agent, you are now going directly to the factories which are on Alibaba who are producing these products, right? So again, you're cutting out one more middleman because you have the buying power with the amount of volume you're moving. Secondly, once you have that inventory in the local market, maybe it's the United States, you can offer faster domestic shipping to your customers. So 3 to 5 days. And that can mean a huge difference to your customers in terms of the trust factor. If they see that you're shipping domestically from the US, and you're able to offer 3 to 5 day shipping, they think of you as a trustworthy brand that's somewhat like Amazon now, able to offer domestic shipping with fast shipping days, right? And lastly, at that kind of scale, you can typically have the manufacturer on Alibaba customize and brand your product and packaging with your own logos, right? So that again is another way to really make your store a lot more professional and make sure that your look and feel is really, really good. Now, once you make that decision, you can start exploring various domestic fulfillment options in the United States and Europe. And the services that I've mentioned here are ShipBob, Dollar Fulfillment, and Shopify Fulfillment Network. Each of these are very, very well established logistical services that help you make your fulfillment process a lot smoother on the back end, especially once you have inventory in the United States. Now, there's a few things to be aware of when you're reaching out to these service providers that I mentioned on the last slide. You have to be careful of monthly minimum requirements. Some of them do have monthly minimums that you have to agree to, again, because anything less than that is not profitable for them. Some of them have onboarding fees up front that you need to be aware of. Again, you can ask them, make sure you ask them what their promised delivery standards are. Is it 2 day? Do they have a 2 day shipping option? How much will that cost? Do they have a 3 to 5 day shipping option? How much will that cost? Ask them, of course, about inventory storage fees, because you'll be putting your product in their warehouse, and that's not for free. Again, they will charge you for ongoing storage fee as long as you have your product taking up space in their warehouse, right? So make sure you really clarify each of those different fees, because that will have an impact on your profit and loss at the end of the day. Also make sure to fully understand the onboarding process. How do you send them inventory, right? How do they onboard it? How do they integrate it into their system? How long does it take, right? So all of those time frames are important to understand so that you know how far ahead buy that inventory before your sales come in. So as I mentioned, there's lots of advantages to that, but the major downside is that you're locking up that money, and that's a direct impact on your cash flow. And for an e-commerce business, it's cash flow is everything. So really, you have to be very careful of the timelines. And as I mentioned, you have to take into account how long it takes for the company to onboard your inventory into their systems, how long it will take you to get the product out of China to your domestic market, the customs times. You have to assume that hiccups will happen, okay? It's very rare almost that everything goes very smoothly. So assume that you will have interruptions in this process and plan for them, right? Plan for the day when your goods are stuck in customs in the United States. What will you do at that point? Do you already have some stock in the warehouse? Do you have some alternative means of fulfillment that can keep your supply chain going, right? Sometimes there may be export delays from the Chinese side. So you really have to think about all those aspects. Talk to your, sometimes your sourcing agents can actually help you with this process, because they deal with these customs process sometimes quite often. So talk to as many different sources as you can to really streamline the process and prepare for the eventuality that sometimes you will get hiccups in your importing process. Now, let's talk about the secret sauce. Okay, I've talked about different supply chain options for you at different stages of your business. Now, the secret sauce, in my opinion, is that service trumps speed. Okay, in all the previous options, the focus was the speed of fulfillment, but generally, you would be surprised at how patient your customers can be as long as they know what to expect, right, in terms of your delivery time frame. So make sure you're very empathetic with them, prioritize customer service. Really, that is the biggest thing that I can tell you when it comes to happy customers. It's all about your customer service. Delivery speed and things like that is probably second or third priority, right? So service really trumps speed. And make sure you just tell them what to expect. That's all they want. As long as they know that, okay, they'll take me 1 or 2 weeks to get my product, they're okay with it, right? And if they reach out to you to figure out where the product is, make sure you get back to them in 24 hours. Tell them their tracking updates, right? Keep a very detailed shipping FAQ on your website so that people know where to go to ask questions and get them answered, right? So customer service is a really important aspect of having this supply chain automation. Finally, stay on top of the latest developments. You can often find newer, faster shipping options that are being created by different companies. For example, with companies like CJ Dropshipping, oftentimes, even though you're just starting off as a beginner, you can get customized packaging, right? Which is something we talked about at bigger scale. So, stay on top of these developments because you can take advantage of these from the services as they're coming in. At later stages, when you're starting to hold inventory, it's all about the planning. As I mentioned, you have to treat it like a business. You have to forecast your demand, your inventory, your supply, your timelines, any hiccups that are happening, and most importantly, your cash flows, right? You have to forecast your cash flows in those peak periods. Are you going to have enough to run your ads? Are you going to have enough to pay your suppliers? So make sure you try to plan that out as much as you can. And realize that taking inventory risk at larger scales in your business is inevitable. That is how you grow. So be prepared to learn from the mistakes that you make at that stage of your business. So I hope that's been helpful to all of you. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you can find us on the dropshippingcouncil.com. If you feel that you have reached a scale where you qualify, we have a minimum qualification criteria of $100,000 per month in sales, then this community definitely could be something that you may qualify for. So check out the website, see if you qualify. And if you want to reach us directly, you can find us on our YouTube channel as well, Journey to Freedom. You can make a comment on our videos and we'll definitely get back to you personally. We respond to each and every comment directly ourselves. We don't have any VAs that are doing that for us. So I hope you found that useful, and thanks again for the opportunity to speak to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Hiromi Oji and I'm a Cloud and Inbound Sales Team Lead here at Easyship. I'll be talking about how your shipping strategy will increase your sales through sharing why shipping is important, how you should plan your shipping strategies, as well as your international shipping strategies to take your brand global. Join me at eCommence to Strive is to Thrive from May 19th to the 20th, and I'll see you guys there.
Hi everyone. Thanks for joining me today for PageFly's eCommence 2021 to Survive is to Thrive. I'm from Easyship and I will be presenting how your shipping strategy can increase your e-commerce sales. So my name is Hiromi Oji and I'm the Cloud and Inbound Sales Lead here in the US for Easyship. You can find my LinkedIn information below if you'd like to connect with me after this presentation. Today's agenda will be kickstarting off with why is e-commerce booming? Why is shipping so important? How should you plan your shipping strategies? And lastly, international shipping strategies that actually help take your brand global. So why is e-commerce booming? E-commerce is booming mainly because of the transition from brick and mortar businesses to e-commerce. In the past, a brick and mortar store was the first step towards setting up a retail business. Back then, it was very obvious that you needed a physical store to actually represent your identity and brand. Now you can easily start a business or enhance your existing one through e-commerce. And if you're looking to expand your brick and mortar retail business to larger markets, then e-commerce is your answer. E-commerce growth has actually accelerated during COVID-19 by 4 to 6 years. COVID-19 has put a further strain on traditional retail, and there have been widespread closures of department stores around the world since January 2020, unfortunately, due to the impact of COVID-19. At the height of global lockdowns, the pandemic widened the gap between brick and mortar businesses and online commerce as consumers were pushed fully online. Secondly, traditional retailers are now seeing the benefits. Brands who traditionally only existed in brick and mortar stores now see the benefits after having to take their brands online during COVID-19. These benefits are such as cost-effective methods of expansion with significantly lower overhead costs, wider customer outreach, the ability to have 24/7 sales, and increased brand awareness, just to list a couple of reasons. So, the boom in e-commerce is also spurred by the emergence and growth of cross-border e-commerce. More brands are now selling products across borders through online or offline channels significantly helps their sales. E-commerce has shown to have gained traction across virtually every product category, and this is because consumers continue to avoid physical stores even after lockdown restrictions have been lifted, and consumer spending is currently being diverted from leisure activities and travel to spending online. Merchants can actually no longer be close-minded and ignore the need for a comprehensive global e-commerce strategy. Based on a report and an analysis of more than 350 brands and retailers selling internationally, it shows a 21% year-over-year increase in global cross-border discretionary sales during the COVID-19 pandemic in the period of January to June 2020 alone. So therefore, e-commerce and global e-commerce market is really booming due to the ability of having to sell regardless of wherever your customer is, and expanding internationally can actually be achieved easily without any physical presence that was required in the past. So why is shipping important? Shipping is important because of the first reason, which is cart abandonment rates. According to a UPS survey among 18,000 respondents who were asked to rank their cart abandonment reasons, just to pull a few statistics out of some reasons for cart abandonment, you will find that shipping is a common theme for why they choose to abandon their purchase. Therefore, although commonly overlooked, shipping is incredibly important to ensure that there is conversion at your checkout. And if you look at these statistics, the most common reason for why people abandon their shopping cart is actually shipping related, with the cost of delivery being higher than anticipated. Shipping is really important for customer retention, and I cannot stress this enough to anyone who's selling online. And it is due to the fact that it has now become a habit for customers to research, read reviews, and compare products and brands before purchasing. Customers now do their research before buying from a brand. A bad review about an item never arriving or unexpected additional costs for tax and duties could actually make or break acquiring a new customer. Therefore, bad reviews about delivery matter. Differentiate yourself through an excellent e-commerce delivery experience, and the delivery options that you offer have a direct impact on your prospective customers' decisions to shop with you or not. According to a report by PwC, these statistics show how important the fulfillment and delivery is for customer retention. So if you want to take a look here, these are some key statistics that indicate why consumer behavior is changing. Moving on, how should you plan your shipping strategies? The first step here would be to be a smart shipper. Understand the behavior and preferences of your customer, and something that online retailers should know is that your shipping strategy can actually be used to market your company effectively. By understanding your current customer profile and your target customer profile, you can build a shipping strategy and one that identifies with your e-commerce shipping strategy goals to suit your customers' needs. This becomes increasingly even more important during holiday or peak seasons. It's paramount for people to feel confident that they will receive their products in the shortest amount of time possible. So, you should hope to actually achieve with a successful shipping strategy, increase conversions, increase average order value, expanding your market or target audience, and decreasing the cost. So strategies you can offer is free shipping or free returns. Free shipping is an e-commerce shipping strategy that can actually help you stay competitive and in line with the expectations of your consumers. The logic here is that if your competitors are offering free shipping, you should too. And if they aren't, doing so can give you a competitive advantage over your competitors. Today's consumers are actually conditioned to expect free shipping, and if you are an Amazon customer, you will understand that shopping online has been a breeze with Amazon because they offer you free shipping regardless of if it is going to arrive to you in 1 or 2 days. So it's actually crucial for small medium businesses to meet these demands to remain competitive due to the culture that these big box retailers have created. So a question that's commonly asked to me is that if I cannot offer free shipping, what else can I do? So if you cannot offer free shipping, minimum shipping thresholds are actually a good way to offer free shipping as well. Free shipping with a minimum order benefit is a very popular option, as this promotion actually incentivizes the customer to purchase more. By doing so, customers have to spend a certain amount before offering free shipping, and this makes the customers spend more than they actually intended to in the first place, and it helps you cover the cost of shipping. At the same time, don't make your minimum qualifying purchase price too high, because this could end up turning away customers. And one way to determine whether or not your free shipping price is to figure out your average order value and increase that by 10 to 15%. The next step will be to offer more than one shipping option. And this is highly stressed at Easyship because among a survey that we did with our customers and through our checkout technology, where we actually enable customers to show the cheapest, best value, and fastest shipping options, a majority of our customers have actually now seen an increase in sales and decreased cart abandonment because of the fact that they are providing more solutions to actually meet the demands and needs of their customers now. So if your shipping options at checkout are not up to the customer's satisfactions, they might opt to buy from a competitor who offers a delivery time that better suits their needs. So ultimately, give customers the perception that they are saving on shipping. You may not be able to offer free shipping on every purchase, but you should make it an option at some order value. Give your customers a choice. So the next thing that I'm going to move on to is the key to customer checkouts. So you can see from this graph or this image that flat rate shipping is prevalent here. So what is flat rate shipping? Flat rate shipping is when a single rate is charged for shipping a package regardless of size or weight. Sellers are enticed to use flat rate shipping, or what is commonly known here as a static checkout, because it simplifies shipping. One price pays for a decent amount of weight to any destination. It can also be used as a marketing tool to encourage buyers to spend more. However, what's easiest for the seller isn't always the best for the customer. And the problem with using a courier's flat or fixed rates is that they are unclear and don't provide a lot of information. Imagine purchasing from this site and you don't have any information on the courier type, when you're going to get your item, and if you're purchasing internationally, any tax and duty information. So what is the solution here, right? So the solution here would be to actually show real-time shipping rates, taxes, and delivery at checkout for every country. So you can see here that this shipping, this checkout for your shipping is actually significantly better because it shows the courier name, clear delivery times, low shipping costs, options, and no surprises on tax and duty for your international customers. Moving on, international shipping strategies that actually help take your brand global. So what can you consider when shipping internationally? The first hurdle here is customs paperwork and commercial invoices for each shipment. Customs paperwork and commercial invoices are actually vital for your international shipments because missing or incorrectly filled paperwork is the most common reasons for delays in shipping, especially internationally. So depending on the size and value of your shipment, the documentation required may vary. So even simple mistakes like, the seller forgetting to attach an invoice can actually cause significant delays to your shipping. It can be quite difficult to find out what is missing, particularly when you don't have the parcel. The next one would be not offering delivery duties prepaid, also known as DDP or DDU options for your customer by showing them how much taxes and duties are. So in case you didn't know, your international customers are actually subject to taxes and duties as well. Therefore, you should either offer DDP solutions which include the taxes and duties, or a tax and duty calculator that showcases the taxes and duties even for DDU options to convert more international customers. Lastly, is actually the cost of shipping. So the best way to actually reduce your cost of shipping internationally is to actually work with multiple couriers. Some shipping solutions are better for certain countries, and to find the best couriers for your business, it's actually important to compare prices, delivery times, and tracking quality. Really, in this day and age, no one wants to overpay on shipping. At Easyship, we have done some research, and the short answer is that there is no postal courier that is most likely to be the cheapest way to ship international. However, if you're looking for a shipping solution that's faster than a postal courier, but not as expensive as an express courier, consider using regional couriers that exist in those countries as they focus their delivery on certain regions or areas around the world. So the next step for international shipping strategies is to provide transparency. So the first step is no hidden fees. Show all the costs to your customers. So if you can see from this image here, you can see that this checkout is super transparent, and it shows whether or not taxes and duties are included, or if there are any tax and duty charges in the particular shipment. The next one would be that is the most common is taxes and duties. So most common taxes and duties around the world is import duties, VAT tax, and lastly, there is a commercial invoice that is a required document in international shipping that describes its value to the customs officer, and it actually helps expedite your shipping process or your item getting delivered to your consumer when there is properly filled commercial invoices. Lastly, it is to showcase your shipping policy. A good shipping policy is actually the secret sauce for the vulnerable e-commerce industry, and why I say this is because the more transparent and the more inclusive your shipping policy, the better response you're going to get for your customers. A robust shipping policy actually indicates that the seller is doing business responsibly and actually aspires to give the best service possible to its customers. It doesn't just help you keep your clientele intact, but also improves the conversion rate. So a huge question that's posed to me from my customers is, how do I cut down international shipping costs? The first one would be order consolidation. So order consolidation is actually the process of shipping a number of individual orders together, and shipments going to the same destination are grouped and shipped together, and it actually saves costs and time. And what do we mean by order consolidation is for those customers that actually make 2 to 3 purchases in the same day but through different orders. So let's say if they place an order at 11 o'clock and at 2, actually consider consolidating those 2 orders to reduce your shipping costs. The second would be know all your shipping fees. So the basic shipping cost is calculated by calculating the package's pickup point and its recipient's location, right? So in actuality, the higher the shipping zone, the more you expect to pay. So actually take some time to know all your shipping fees here. The next one would be to negotiate with multiple carriers. So all shipping companies have their own unique pricing schedules. So if you ship often, try negotiating lower rates with multiple carriers and see which one actually works best for the cost savings of your business. Lastly, know your package sizes. So in order to reduce costs, you need an accurate weight and dimensions for your packages. So most couriers actually allow you to enter these metrics into a shipping calculator to get an instant quote. So this way, there shouldn't be any nasty surprises for you in terms of your shipping cost. So the next one would be global fulfillment network. So a global fulfillment network is when you store your products in an overseas warehouse, and it actually makes it easier for you to reach your international customers. So how does a global fulfillment network or putting your trust in an overseas 3PL help you reduce your shipping cost or your overall business cost? So the first one will be lower shipping costs for your customers. So choose a warehouse that is closer to your customer base, and it will actually help lower the shipping cost. The second one will be lower transportation costs for the manufacturer. So if the warehouse is actually closer to your manufacturer, it could actually help you save on the transportation of your products. Lastly, if your warehouse is located in a country where a huge portion of your customer base is, fulfilling orders within the same country or continent can actually remove the burden of customs clearance. So the last thing that I want to touch on here is how Easyship actually helps impact these brands globally. So Easyship helps by allowing you to scale domestically and internationally, firstly, with our global fulfillment partners. With warehouse partners on 4 continents, you can actually be close to your customers without long-term leases. The next one would be a powerful shipping tool with a centralized dashboard. So we have a dashboard that's actually built for merchants of all sizes that want a powerful yet easy to use tool that allows you to manage every aspect of your shipping, from getting a quote to uploading your orders to tracking your shipments. So we have a very powerful centralized dashboard that will allow you to even schedule courier pickups and manage orders from multiple stores. The next would be our 250 available courier solutions. So this will enable you to ship globally with pre-negotiated discounts of up to 70%. And we offer global coverage that actually enables brands to ship to 220 different destinations from North America, Asia, Europe, Australia, and up to 70% discounts on these rates. Lastly, it will be scaling with e-commerce integrations. So integrate your e-commerce store directly to the applications you love to let you streamline your e-commerce operations and make your customers happier. And if there isn't an existing e-commerce integration built, do not worry, we have a very powerful API that is built by developers for developers. So thank you so much for your time today. And if you would like to stay connected, here is our contact information. And I look forward to having a chance of speaking with you guys again soon. Thank you guys so much.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me in this sharing session. I'm Kali Fung, Partnerships Manager at PageFly, also your host today. So before we dive into the discussion, would you all tell me a little bit more about yourselves and your brands?
Sure, I can start. Hi, everyone. My name is Marie-Claude Léveillé. I work for Shopify and have worked for Shopify for the past 7 years. I currently work as a Senior Technology Partner Manager for Shopify in France. So I help manage partners that have applications in our App Store, like PageFly, for example, that will help our merchants run their business.
That's great. Hi, everyone. My name is Shishir Nigam, and I'm the founder of the Dropshipping Council. I'm personally an e-commerce merchant myself. I've been dropshipping for a couple of years now. I'm transitioning now to a brand. We've done more than 7 figures through our own online store, and we're now also developing and growing a private mastermind community, which is called the Dropshipping Council. And that's really exclusively for people who are doing at least $100,000 per month in sales. And we have quite a few different partners, including PageFly.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so hi guys, my name is Hiromi Ochi. I work for Easyship, which is a shipping technology platform that works with, platforms such as Shopify that powers e-commerce sellers to be able to ship from where they are to anywhere in the world. Currently, we power around 120,000+ merchants, and I'm an inbound sales manager at Easyship.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. It's truly an honor to have you all here with us in the very first online conference ever of PageFly, the eCommence 2021. So in this sharing session, we'll discuss the best e-commerce practices that merchants need to know to stay sharp in 2021. So a little bit of an introduction. eCommence 2021 is a 2-day event where we got the industry thought leaders to discuss about e-commerce landscape of 2021 and what our e-commerce merchants need to know to survive and to thrive in a challenging time. So Mary just given us a fantastic and insightful presentation on conversion rate optimization. For those who haven't seen it, check out Mary's talk prior to this sharing session. So Mary, how Shopify has applied these strategies into boosting Shopify conversion rate itself? And does Shopify focus on growing merchants or growing ecosystem at first?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So like I mentioned before, I've been with Shopify for 7 years, which for Shopify is a very long time because we're a fairly new company, even though we power 1-something million merchants today. And ever since the beginning of Shopify, we've always focused on the ecosystem because we quickly realized that we couldn't do everything, right? If we wanted to do absolutely everything, then we would be scattering ourselves thin and not providing the best product to our merchants ultimately. And so we started off with building an ecosystem of various partners and people to help us back in Canada and the US where we're from. And when I joined the French team about 2 years ago, it was when we were really starting to establish ourselves in France. And that's the first thing we did as well, right? Shopify is a great tool because it's simple to use, but it's simple to use because it has functionalities natively that 80% of our merchants will use, not 100%, right? Because you can imagine if we try to make features for everybody, the platform would be extremely complicated and nobody would want to use it. And so we build it for the 80%, and the 20%, we leave that up to our ecosystem of partners. And so I really attribute that to Shopify's success, but I think that's on the Shopify side. But as a merchant also, if you're doing business online, I think the same concept applies, right? Surround yourself with partners that will help kind of boost you up and not have to do 100% everything all the time. So I think that concept definitely still applies there also.
Awesome, it's really a good way to go. So another question that we received during performing our 24/7 support is that how to optimize online store for better conversion rate.
Yeah, there's so many different things that you can do, right? And I think e-commerce these days is pretty saturated, right? There's millions of online stores. And so the key is really to be creative and to differentiate yourself from the next person that's selling potentially items that are similar as you. And what we've been seeing since the beginning of 2020, where there's been an explosion of people buying online because everyone's stuck at home, is that there's a few things that really stand out in terms of boosting conversion rates. So content. That's a big one. And content can either be on your actual website, your online store, and it can also be on social media. So because we're all home, we're all on our computers, we're all on our phones, and we all want to see quality content, right? So that's one big thing that's going to differentiate you from somebody else. Getting to know your customers, integrating yourselves into these communities of online people that are looking for specific things or interested in a specific subject. Providing conversational commerce to these people, right? Like to know them, talking to them, answering their questions. Like, they need to feel like you're a human being, because they don't see any other human beings. Like, I live by myself in my apartment. I work from home. I never see anyone else. So it's great for me to have an online shopping experience where I can talk to another human. So I would say, just to sum up, the content piece is huge for conversion, and the customer service and kind of human aspect is another one.
I think if I can add a couple of points there, I think that's a great point. I think it's all about, just because Shopify has made it so low barriers to entry, so many people enter the space, and it becomes even more, exactly as you said, about what you can do that's an extra step beyond what anybody else is doing, right? And oftentimes in the e-com space, the mentality is, I should only do something which is super scalable. It shouldn't be tied to my time. But unfortunately, that often means that people miss out on the things that you're talking about, the soft touch, the emotional side of things, the conversational side of things, the content. Like, those things don't deliver an immediate ROI for a business owner. But over the long term, exactly as you said, it makes a difference, right? Because that's what that extra step is that many business owners are not willing to do. They would rather spend time doing another ad set in a Facebook ad platform rather than creating content, right? So the exact return is not clearly visible, but over the long term, it definitely is.
But just one thing to add to that here, and I won't take up too much more time, but you can spend thousands of dollars on an ad campaign, but if it links to your website that has no content, or your social media that doesn't have any content on it, it doesn't matter if you spend $1 or $10,000 on a campaign, you're not going to generate any returns on that. So the two kind of go together, but they can't work individually. And I think people have to really put themselves in the shoes of a consumer. We're all consumers in this day and age. So what do you want to see? What do you look for on your phone when you're just sitting on your couch and just mindlessly scrolling? What do you want to see, and apply that to the business?
Yes, agree. That's also the point that PageFly is focusing now, the content. Yes, I totally agree. So another question for you, Mary. Our merchants start to having an eye on TikTok, as now it's becoming a dominating social platforms. What are the potentials for TikTok towards e-commerce marketing, and how we can make use of it?
Yeah, that's a great question. TikTok is starting to make me feel old a little bit. Like, I'm of the Facebook generation, and at most Instagram, and now we have TikTok that's coming up, and other stuff. So that's a big change for me. But to that point, TikTok is really where the Gen Z generation hangs out right now. That's where the younger kind of generation hangs out. And that generation, they're quickly becoming of purchasing age, or so to speak, right? These are teenagers that are becoming 18 very quickly, that are now going to be able to make their own online orders. So the potential in TikTok is absolutely massive, and it's a worldwide platform. So it's absolutely everywhere. To that point, Shopify quickly created a native integration with TikTok, because what better way to connect with that base of customers than to be able to push your products directly on it with influencers, etc. So I think for particular businesses, different verticals that might, be exciting for that younger crowd, I think TikTok will be indispensable in the upcoming years, right? It's not even a question of whether or not you should sell on TikTok. It's, if you don't sell on TikTok, you're probably falling behind, or at the very least, you're going to be missing out on huge potential. So I think TikTok, especially with the younger crowd, is definitely something to watch in the upcoming years.
Yes, you're right. We definitely advise merchants to dig more onto this social. Thank you, Mary. Now,
of course,
talking about conversion rate, it goes hand in hand with customer experience. So, Cecile, what would be your advice to merchants who want to improve customer experience to make their stores look more trustworthy?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kelly. It's always a blend of a few things. The first aspect, exactly as Mary was talking about, you have to think about how you define trust as a consumer yourself. That is the best indicator of what your own business store should look like. Would you shop from your store? And oftentimes we tend to be biased about it, of course, because we designed the store. But take it from a friend or somebody and make them look at your store and give their opinion to you. would you buy from this store, right? That's, I think, the best barometer and scale to assess it. But ultimately, the few sort of things I always try to look at on my own stores, on my websites, the ones that do well are the ones that are always, first of all, professional looking and trustworthy, right? And we achieve that through several means. One simple one that is quite easy to achieve for anybody is just color schemes. When you're designing your stores, it's very tempting, and Shopify has all these wonderful themes, to go crazy on designing your store and putting in that feature and this feature and that additional add-on. But that really makes your store look bad. And if you go to a Nike or if you go to adidas.com, you don't see random pop-ups coming left, right, and center telling you to do this and do that, right? It's not telling you, oh, X% just bought this from this place. It doesn't happen. So it depends a lot on the type of merchandise you're putting out, of course. But more often than not, it's much more better to have your store be trustworthy rather than try to capture that one extra person because of a pop-up, right? So the one thing I always focus on and tell people is make sure you don't interrupt the customer purchase process as little as possible. Like maybe have one pop-up to get an email, but that's about it. Don't do too many other pop-ups. The more you interrupt the journey, the lower your conversion rate is going to be, simple and straight. The other aspect for store design is we talk a lot about landing pages now. So again, PageFly is one example, but landing pages are really where if you're driving paid traffic to a page on a website, it better be in the best shape possible, because every incremental percentage of conversion that you get is a huge bump up on your return on the ads you're spending on. So, if possible, if you know out of 10 products, this one is your best seller, develop a dedicated landing page for it. There's multiple apps you can use on Shopify to develop one, and it's going to be worth it. Take the time and effort to develop a landing page for that product only. Do the frequently asked questions, do all of the videos and things like that on that one page, so that you bump up conversion rates for that one product itself, because that's where you're driving most of your paid traffic to. So I think those are the two sort of big things for me.
Yeah,
I think you brought up a really good point in terms of like trust with the consumers. I think with dropshipping, especially having been so popular in the past couple of years, consumers are getting a little bit smarter, because we see a lot of dropshipping stores, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. The products aren't bad, but people want to know that they almost want to know that it's not a dropshipping store, even if it is. So they want that story behind it. They want the media. They want it to look clean and trustworthy. And I think that's a really good point, for sure.
Yeah. And Hiromi, are you there? Do you have any advice for our merchants on customer experience?
Yeah, so definitely on the shipping side of things, I would, one of the best advice that I can give to a store owner, just to go back to Shishir's point about building, trust among your clients, is to have a very transparent shipping policy. So essentially, when brands are buying from your store, what will surprise you is that, like most customers will not purchase from your store if you do not have a transparent shipping policy, right? So definitely one of the ways to make your site more credible is to offer a transparent returns policy, or for the customer to be able to return the item if they are not happy with it. So that's one of the advice that I can give to make your store more credible and more appealing to a consumer.
And
I don't usually buy if there's not a clear return policy, so that's super valid.
And one nuance I was just going to point out, one small thing that Hiromi mentioned, and she said it very correctly, it's be transparent about your shipping policy. It doesn't mean that you have to have the fastest shipping times. No, you can have, when our store hit 7 figures, we did it with 2 to 4 week shipping times. But we were super transparent about it. Like on the product description, the first thing on the product description was, hey, shipping is 2 to 4 weeks. On the checkout page, again, shipping is 2 to 4 weeks. In the email they get, shipping is 2 to 4 weeks. So if people are aware of what to expect, you'd be surprised at how patient they can be. We tend to think as Amazon buyers that, if it's not 2-day shipping, nobody will buy from me. No, people will buy provided they see the value in the product. And if you're upfront with them on what to expect, and you keep on communicating and you're open with the channels there.
Definitely. Just to add on to this point about, like being transparent about your shipping lead times. So essentially, like what he said, Amazon and these big box retailers have kind of established a new norm and standard for shipping, right? So customers expect to know when their goods are getting to them or to expect to get a tracking ID. So even though, as he mentioned, like, there are 2 to 4 weeks of a lead time for the customers to get their items, as long as a customer anticipates that and they understand that that is like how long the product is going to take to reach them, then that will be a lot better of a way to communicate to the customer instead of them having to reach out and ask you, where is my order, right? It will actually reduce the amount of time that you're spending on even customer support and even like have a better customer experience to retain them and increase your customer retention.
Hiromi, another question for you. You've talked about shipping challenges in 2021 and how to overcome them. So what do you think about free shipping strategies? Is it a sustainable way to boost sales?
Yeah, so definitely for free shipping strategies at Easyship, we definitely think offering free shipping in this era makes sense because once again, as I mentioned, Amazon and several big box retailers have normalized this incentive, right? So one thing that you're going to find or through our research is that 23% of customers actually expect free shipping at checkout. If not, they're going to turn away and go to another store, right? So especially during, like peak seasons and during the holiday seasons, this is a must, as many customers are truly in purchase mode. So they're much more willing to justify these purchases when there is free shipping. So as a shipping strategy, a couple of ways to determine the best way to offer this is to best know your average order value. The second will be the product margins. And the third will be the actual shipping costs. And from there, you can easily make the promotion happen by maybe offering free shipping for your most popular products. And one thing that at Easyship that we do is that we actually suggest to the clients, why not you incorporate the price of shipping into the listing price of your item, right? Or let's just say, for Shopify, at the shipping tab, you can actually add in a percentage to mark up your shipping rates so that you're not covering everything as a whole. So these are things that you can incorporate to maybe make free shipping happen. And another cool way that you can do it is to actually do minimum shipping thresholds. So through our platform, we actually allow customers to, let's say, if a customer buys $50 worth of product, we offer shipping. So the client essentially, offers that on their site, provides this, promotion. And this is a very good way for you as an e-commerce seller to validate free shipping because not only does the promotion incentivize the customer to purchase more, it increases your average revenue per order and also justifies the amount you're spending on shipping when customers meet this threshold.
Yes, so that's you are doing a great job.
I completely agree with the second point, by the way. Sorry about that. The second point that Hiromi mentioned, that's exactly what we do on our stores. Initially, we started off testing free shipping for everybody. And yes, that's the best way to boost to maximize your conversion rates. But at the end of the day, we have to look at profitability, right? So we found that, when we looked at what our bestsellers are, what their price point is, we set our free shipping target just slightly beyond that price point. And what that made people do is you'd be surprised at what people do to get free shipping, right? So people will often multiply their purchases and get an extra color, or they'll think of somebody to gift it to somebody because they know they'll save on the shipping cost to do that. So yes, your conversion rate will take a bit of a hit, but your bump in AOV will more than make up for the reduction in the conversion rate. And that's what we found the best way to use that free shipping is. Don't give it to everybody. Give it to people who are just slightly spending more than your current AOV.
I'm definitely guilty of buying a lot of stuff that I don't need just so I can get free shipping. So I hear that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, for sure.
Besides shipping, obviously, we've been seeing a lot of changes in the logistic landscape. Suez Canal is obviously a notable example. So, Silshia, in your opinion, which factor should e-commerce merchants pay attention to create a seamless order and shipping process?
Yeah, that's a good question, and unfortunately, it's not a simple answer. It really depends on where your business is, what kind of volumes you're doing, right? So that's very much what it depends on, how much scale you currently have. For many people who are starting off as beginners who have not done a lot of volume, maybe you're doing less than a few $1,000s in sales, it's very hard to put a system in place at that stage because you don't have enough scale. So many times, at that stage, you have to kind of just fulfill from either AliExpress or some domestic suppliers like Spocket who have US and European suppliers, and just fulfill orders one by one as they come in. But for folks who are a bit more advanced, they have, let's say, they're now hitting $10,000, $20,000 per month in sales. That's the point at which you can start to implement systems that can automate that fulfillment process for you. And that can be done through a variety of sources. If you're sourcing your products from China, there are a whole bunch of sourcing agents or 3PL companies who will help you to automate that process. They will reach out to the manufacturers and suppliers. They will get you better deals because they're directly communicating with the factories as opposed to you buying from AliExpress. So they help to do that fulfillment for you on your behalf to your end customer. So that's the first step that most people take in terms of automating their supply chain. And then once you go past, let's say, $100,000 per month in sales, that's, as I mentioned, that's where many of the members who are part of the Dropshipping Council, that's where they are. They're either already a brand or transitioning to a brand at that stage. Most people at that point are holding their own inventory, right? So they're either buying in bulk from Alibaba and shipping it to the US if that's where their primary market is, and they're branding it. They're branding their own boxes. They're branding the products, and you're using services like ShipBob, Shopify fulfillment network, Dollar Fulfillment. All of these services help with domestic fulfillment, and they provide 3 to 5 day shipping domestically in the US and things like that. So it really very much depends on what your scale is, and as you progress, you can take on a bit more inventory risk as you grow.
Yeah, I think to your point when you were saying it depends what you're selling. If you're in the US and you're just shipping from the US, that's one thing. If you're like a merchant in Europe where we have the union, and then we also have the UK, which is no longer part of the union, having a 3PL, potentially one on the European side and then one on the UK side, is something that's vital these days. So yeah, I hear you when you say it's not like a clear-cut answer, because it really depends on the business and everything else.
Yeah, I hope that our merchants have already taken note on your recommendations. And well, how about Easyship? Hiromi, can you share with our audience your expertise in global shipping?
For sure. So, once again, as Shishir mentioned, there is no one best answer for this because these shipping challenges can come in many forms and, many types. So I'm just going to talk about, the 3 biggest ones that I hear from my customers on a daily basis. So for e-commerce merchants, like what we hear the most at Easyship will be first, how do they respond well to supply chains disruptions, right? Like the Suez Canal situation. 2, how do they meet customer expectations with the changing landscape? And 3, what shipping solution is the best for my business, right? So for the first one, besides the Suez Canal situation, other forms of supply chain disruptions can include outliers like, weather complications, natural disasters, tariffs and other unforeseen events, which just adds to the complication of already having to deal with day-to-day operations, right? So therefore, responding well to these supply chains disruptions relies on research and working with reliable logistics partners. With new players entering the space every year, it's important to do your homework and look for partners with a proven approach to end-to-end transport infrastructure. And agility is a very important trait in a quality partner, right? As it means that you can expect a workaround for any issues in a short order. So one of the things that we suggest to, some customers that have actually experienced, many delays, like, during the coronavirus situation with, disruptions to their supply chain is that they should actually look for maybe a local manufacturer that can help them in the event that, like there's a delay in getting their goods, right? Especially with peak seasons around. you do not want to, run out of goods to sell. So looking for a local manufacturer is definitely one of the things that we suggest. And moving on to the second point is that, the second biggest shipping challenge is meeting customer expectations, right? So as mentioned previously, Amazon and these several big e-commerce retailers have certainly set the bar super high with these free 1 to 2 day deliveries, and then raise it with mixed and then same day options. So retailers and brands who want to compete or avoid selling through Amazon are now kind of compelled to match their delivery promises or provide like differentiated value to their customers, right? So if offering free and fast shipping is not possible for your business right now, you can actually explore different options that offer your consumers convenience over just speed, which is something that we really, emphasize to our customers. And this means exploring omni-channel selling options, right? So this allows your products to not only be accessible through a multitude of purchasing channels, whether it be on store, online, via social media, like TikTok, for example, and third-party retailers, right? And lastly, one of the top questions that customers have asked me is, what shipping solution is best for their business as companies look to expand overseas and keep shipping costs low domestically and internationally, right? So in today's world where, like in America, we're, very familiar with USPS, FedEx, and DHL, and UPS, for example, what will be a shock to you is that there are actually more than 400 different shipping companies. So each one of them has, their strengths and weaknesses that you need to understand what's the best courier for your business type. And sometimes that can get very overwhelming for these retailers to have to go through one, each and every single one to kind of find the best one for their business. So just a couple of tips and tricks that we like to, push to our customers here is that they can evaluate by using different factors such as shipping rates, for shipping rates such as weight, dimensions, distance and delivery speed to evaluate the best courier for your business based on your needs and customer demographics. And one of the easiest ways to gain access to multiple courier rates so that you don't have to do the comparisons is to actually find a shipping software that has already negotiated those, those cheaper contracts on your behalf, so you can find the best solutions on already lowered shipping rates.
Yes, that's awesome. So I believe that those are very valuable things that our merchants can't ignore. And I hope you already feel so helpful with our speakers' answers. So finally, I would like to say thank you so much to our amazing speakers and all of the audience that have been following up to our event. So back to the big guy Shopify with the last but not least question. Mary, which shipping challenges do you think our merchants should take caution of?
Oh, that's a good question. I think Shopify is definitely a platform that wants to encourage new entrepreneurs to start a business with Shopify, but it's also a platform that gives them all the tools to grow to the limit that they want to grow, right? And a big part of potentially growing and getting bigger is starting to ship internationally. So I briefly talked about Europe and how important it is to figure out your logistics for multiple different parts of Europe or outside of the European Union. That obviously involves calculating duties and other taxes that go along with the packages. So that's definitely one problematic that is good to figure out if you want to grow as a merchant. Same thing, for example, like US brands, right? They want to grow into the European market, which is across the Atlantic. How do you make that happen, right? Because there's a huge demand for American type of products in Europe and vice versa. So figuring out what's best for you as a business in terms of logistics to expand all over the world, I think is a problematic that a lot of merchants go through, but it's something that we're blessed to have, solutions like Easyship, for example, that make that a little bit easier. We have partners in our ecosystem that have warehouses across the world. We have Shopify Fulfillment Network for that purpose in Canada and the United States. So we talk about Amazon, we talk about, like same day fulfillment and stuff like that. Like Shopify is really trying to bring that same vibe to individual merchants, right? We want you to have that same type of logistics and all those advantages without having to go put your product on a marketplace and, really regaining that independence as a merchant.
I can second that, by the way. I personally use Shopify Fulfillment Network for my inventory in the US, and I do it out of Austin, Texas, their warehouse there. And yeah, it makes a world of difference if you can say on your website that you can offer 3 to 5 day shipping. That's huge, because right away that is one of the biggest trust factors, right? To the first point that you mentioned, when customers want to know that they're not on a dropshipping website, when they see 2 to 4 weeks, they know that it's probably one, right? So if you're able to offer that 3 to 5 day shipping, that's day and night in terms of the trust factor on the website.
But it's also, there's nothing wrong with starting to be like with drop shipping with those 2 to 4 week turnaround times at the beginning, but ultimately we want to get you to a point where you're able to house your own products, or you're able to pay a warehouse to house those products and go down to those 2 to 5 day shipping times and get more independence as an entrepreneur. So I hear that.
There is one more question. Actually, I would like to ask. So about average order value, this is another let's talk about sales booting. So the next question goes to Sergio. Which tactics do you think e-commerce merchants can use to increase the average order value and thus increase profit?
Yeah, no, that's a very, very fundamental question that I think people have to start asking once they get a bit of success and grounding in the whole Shopify and so, Facebook ads ecosystem. Once they get a bit of traction there, the next immediate step is focus on your average order value, because that is going to be the biggest determinant of your profitability. And the reason for that is, to explain it in layman's term a little bit, you're spending a fixed dollar amount to acquire a customer, right? Whatever X dollars you spend on Facebook or any other social media platform in terms of ads to acquire the customer and bring them to your website, let's say $10. Now you've spent $10 to get a customer to your website. Now what they spend on your website is entirely up to you to determine based on the product offering you have, right? So the bigger their average spend on your website, the more your profitability, because your marketing cost is a sunk cost, right? It's done. So anything beyond that is what will determine your profitability. So that's where our focus, and many of the folks that we work with inside the council, they focus a lot on funnels, right? Building funnels, building abilities to cross-sell, upsell, downsell products to customers, because that is what will really guarantee you the long-term profitability. So there's a few aspects to it. One is the AOV at the point of purchase, on the day of purchase, let's say. So when you're first doing the transaction, and I often ask this question, what is the best time to sell to a customer? It's just after they've bought something from you. That's when they trust you the most, right? They trusted you enough to give you their credit card info, their address and everything. That's when the trust is at a peak. That is the best time to sell to a customer, even better than when they were first at your website. So that is why upsells, whether that's on your thank you page or whether that's through a proper built out funnel, like through Zipify or something, you gotta upsell something that's complimentary, that's in addition to what they just bought. They may or may not take it up, but any additional revenue you get there is pure profit, because you're not spending anything incremental in terms of marketing. And then now, once the customer has completed the purchase, the rest of it is called lifetime value. So lifetime value is all of the spend the customer makes after making their first purchase with you. And that comes from things like email marketing, SMS marketing, messenger marketing, web push marketing. And all of those channels are really a big asset for you as a business owner. And that is the main differentiating point versus Amazon, as Mary was talking about earlier. You own your customer list, right? So that's a huge long-term asset for a business, because you can market to them whenever you want without any cost, right? That's the biggest positive. So when you reach out to them through all of those 4 different channels, that is what will bump up your AOV. And again, the incremental marketing cost is nearly zero. So really focus on those aspects. Once you've found the first few products that are selling well for you as a business owner, that's your logical next step to really bump up your profitability.
Just one super quick thing to add to that. I think one thing that's really imperative to do is leverage the data that you're getting about your customers the most, right? Because when customers are purchasing, you know where they're from, you know what type of products that they like, for example. You can maybe get an idea of their gender if you ask for that. So you really get an idea of kind of what their patterns are, who they are, and you can easily segment your customers in your back end based on their behavior. And then when you're sending out email marketing, for example, as opposed to just sending, a newsletter that's general for everybody that no one will open, send something that will pique their interest based on their purchase history, right? Like that data that you're getting is free. Like use it to your advantage to really make the best out of it and get them to come purchase that second, third, fourth, fifth time.
Yeah, great point. Like we have flows on our back end which are all specific to the product that they've bought. So on that, it's exactly what you said. It's you'll have much higher open rates, you'll have much higher click-through rates if you are taking that extra step, as we talked about earlier, to really go the extra step and understand who your customers are and tailor your marketing to them.
For sure.
Well, yes, thank you so much for provided some really incredible insights. And actually, we wish could have more time to chat with you, but the clock is ticking. So I really take the time to say thank you so much for being here and sharing with us today. Yes, to the merchants, please share with us what you think under the comment section. It will absolutely great to listen to your feedback so that we can improve our next topics. Also, don't forget to stay tuned for day 2, the Thrive section, where you definitely learn the top useful practices from the thought leaders in the industry. So lastly, thank you so much, Mary, Sushi, and Hiromi for being with us today. And I wish you all the best.
Thanks for having us.
Guys.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. So that's it for the meeting today. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah, have a great day.
You too.
Hi everyone, my name is Marie-Claude Léveillé and I am a Senior Technology Partner Manager at Shopify in France, and I'm going to be covering the key principles and best practices in store design and marketing to grow your traffic and get more sales. So I'll be touching base on how to reach beyond the storefront, how to grow your traffic organically before investing into paid ads. I'm also going to be talking about your store design, how less is more, how practicality and functionality is what's going to keep your customers around. And last but not least, I'm going to be talking about marketing, how to get to know your customers and how to understand the data about your customers to boost your sales. So join me at eCommerce to Strive is to Thrive on May 18th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Can't wait to see you there. Bye. Hi everyone, my name is Marie-Claude Léveillé. I'm a Senior Technology Partner Manager for Shopify in France. I've been working for Shopify for about 7 years, and today I want to share a bit of my findings with you. So we're going to be talking about the key principles and the best practices in store design and marketing. So how to grow your traffic and your sales. So let's get going. Here's what we're going to be covering today. So first and foremost, how to reach beyond the storefront, how to grow your traffic organically before you're investing into paid marketing. So how to really set yourself up for success first. The second point is your store design, how less is more and how customers are looking for functionality and practicality. And last but not least, in terms of marketing, how to get to know your customers, what tools are at your disposal to really make the best out of your marketing. All right, so let's get right into it. So one thing I want to emphasize before we get going is that you don't need to make drastic changes to make a big difference, right? And sometimes all it takes is that we need to get into the shoes of a customer to really understand what's going to make an impact and what's going to grow your traffic, your sales, and your conversion. So the first point I want to make here is to ask yourself some kind of basic questions before getting into this, right? So if you're shopping on an online store and you end up leaving, what's the reason behind that? Is there a recurring pattern in online stores that you visit that inevitably let you to leave the store before you actually purchase? So what are those reasons and how can we be insightful in that and maybe apply that to our own online store? The second point is the opposite of that, right? What keeps you interested? When you last visited an online store that you found really interesting, what was it about that online store that made you interested? And to that point, is there anything on the other side that makes you really frustrated about an online shopping experience? Can you remember the last time that you went on a store and you were really lost or you were really frustrated? So how do we pinpoint those things and avoid them? And last but not least, what is it about your favorite online store that makes it stand out? So think about the last time that you made a purchase on your favorite store. What was so special about it and how can we apply that same concept to our store? So let's just keep these questions in the back of our mind as we're going to go through these next couple of slides here. So the first point is how to grow your traffic organically, how to get better return on investment in terms of ad campaigns, and how do we set ourselves up for success first and foremost. So one thing that I want to point out is that everyone's online right now. So we're all working from home or just, at home because there's still a pandemic, even though it's slowly coming to an end. So let's take advantage of that, right? Let's recognize that first and foremost, and let's take advantage of it. And one way to do that is creating quality content, right? Because everyone's on their phone, on their laptops right now, and people are really yearning for some more content. So whatever the subject you're an expert in, if you're selling fashion, write about fashion. If you're selling beauty, there's a ton of people looking for content on beauty. So write about that. And don't be afraid of adding media. Don't be afraid if you have the opportunity to add quality pictures, some videos, podcasts, whatever it may be, because that is what will make you stand out from everybody else. And ultimately, the better your content, the better returns you're going to get on your ad campaigns, right? If you, for example, take two different businesses, and they're both selling the same thing. One has a really healthy Instagram with beautiful content, and they have a nice blog where people can comment and stuff like that. And the other one has barely anything on their social media or on their website. And both of them are going to be spending, let's say, $1,000 on an ad campaign. Which is going to get the better returns? Obviously, it's going to be the one with the more quality content, right? Because you're really providing your customers an experience before you're even targeting them, which is something that people really appreciate because we're all getting a bit complacent in terms of getting ads targeted to us all the time. So if we click on an ad and we go to the Instagram account or the website and the content isn't really great, then we're not going to be very encouraged to purchase. So one doesn't work without the other, right? You can spend $1 million on an ad campaign if you want, but if your content isn't particularly great, you're not going to get very great returns. So let's take advantage of the fact that everyone's online right now. Let's provide them with valuable content, and ultimately we're going to see better returns after the fact. So my second point is about store design, how less is more. I think a perfect example of this is Apple products, right? Like Apple products have taken over the world, but I think the key to their success is that they're very minimalist, right? They're very functional. And in that functionality, there's beauty, right? They're beautiful looking products, but ultimately it's their functionality that make them so popular. So I think people are really looking for that same experience when they're browsing online or they're shopping online. So the less friction they have to go through, the better, right? The more they can understand the workings of your store instinctively, the better it is, and ultimately the more chances that this customer is going to convert. So sometimes you have to kind of find a balance between functionality and aesthetics. Of course, your store has to be beautiful, but again, sometimes there's beauty in things just being very simple and very functional. And ultimately, the less time that your customer has to spend to get from point A to point B, the more chances they're going to have to convert. So point A being when they first land on your website, to point B being when they finish their purchase. So what can we do to really minimize that friction, right? Like, let's look at the architecture of the store. Is that really necessary? Is the navigational menu easy to understand? Because sometimes when it's our website and it's our business, we kind of look at it, and for us it's obvious because we've built it, right? Like, we're the brain behind it, so of course it's going to make sense to us. But asking friends and family, or even better, random strangers to look at your store and tell you what makes sense and what doesn't, is something that can be extremely, extremely valuable. And the last point that I want to make is something that's really important, and that's getting to know your customers. So again, I talked about how everyone's online right now, and that makes it so that customers are like on Instagram communities, Facebook, TikTok, they're on podcasts. You know, people are really bringing their social life that they used to have in the real world to these online communities. So integrate yourself into those communities and get to know what your customers are looking for, what they like, what they don't like. Is there a trend that you'd be able to apply to your business? So really try to get to know that. And the second point here is find ways to bring a human approach to your marketing and to your customer service. So back in 2019, before the world went a little bit crazy, you were able to walk into a store and talk to a sales representative or have somewhat of a social experience as you were shopping, but now that doesn't exist anymore. So I think customers are really yearning for that experience in some way or another. So how can you replicate that through your store or your blog or your social media, for example, right? Bring that human touch and really differentiate yourself from the competition that's going to maybe just take a traditional approach to the way that they manage their customers. One thing, and probably the most important thing of all here, is use your customer data to your advantage. Like, this is free information that you have, and every online merchant knows that they spend a lot of resources and money into getting that customer to purchase at their store for the very first time. So it's imperative that you maximize those efforts and you get your customers to come back. And how do we do that? When customers are visiting your store or they're making a purchase, you get a lot of information about them. There's different tools that will tell you where they went on your store, how much time they spent, what collections they view, what products they're more interested in. And after they make a purchase, you know exactly what they like, right? You know exactly what they've purchased, where they're from, etc. And whatever your e-commerce platform is, you'll have segmentation tools where you're able to quickly put your customers into different groups based on their behavior on your store or their purchase history. And so later on, when you're doing, email marketing campaigns, as opposed to sending an email that's just general, that people will know is just like spam or an email marketing email, send something that's exactly based on what they purchased before or their behavior, and they're going to be so much more inclined to actually open it and come back to purchase a second, third, fourth, fifth time, etc. So that is really, really key. And lastly, to that same point, curate your content based on that knowledge, right? You're finding out so much about your customers this way that you know what they like, you know what they want to see. And, maybe if your content wasn't about this, you can pivot and you can make changes, right? I think if there's anything that these past couple of years have shown us is that we need to change very quickly. We need to be really adaptable. We need to be really flexible. And so it's about a constant learning experience where you're learning so much about your customers, about your own business, what works, what doesn't, and it's okay to make changes based on that. So just to kind of sum up everything that I've just mentioned, integrate yourself into online communities, right? Make sure you're maximizing your efforts before you invest too much into paid ads. Set yourself up for success. make sure your store is understandable by your customers. You don't want to frustrate them or anything to the point where they won't actually convert. Make it as easy for them to spend their money at your store as they possibly can. And the last is really getting to know them, right? Like if you don't try to get your customers, you're not going to get anywhere. And the more you spend energy listening and really getting to know them, the better off you're going to be. And so that's it for me. I hope these were some valuable points for you, and thanks for watching.
Hi everyone, my name is Shishir Nigam and I'm the founder of the Dropshipping Council.